runway line. It's a very, very wonderful November 1st morning here in Seattle. It's only raining a tiny bit, which is a miracle. Yesterday was beautiful. It wasn't too bad. Here at Moz, I hope you guys all had a great Halloween as well. And for our friends following on your homes and your power and things for your families are all going well. You know, it's been a really, really tough week. Hopefully things are getting better. Sounds like in many areas they are, in many areas it's still tough. So this morning we've got a great webinar Erica and I do on the big picture of conversion rate optimization, and there's a lot to get through. So we're gonna kick it off and get started. Erica, anything they should know?
Yes, a little housekeeping. If you are following along and you love to tweet, you can join us on Twitter. The hashtag is Mozinar, and you can definitely ask your questions there as well as ask them in the little Q&A box on GoToMeeting. Our staff is all online and ready to gather those questions so we can ask them to Rand at the end of the session. If you do have any technical difficulties with this session, please email us at team@SEOmoz.org. And I know sometimes GoToWebinar can be a little tricky, so if at any point you lose audio and it looks like maybe it's only you, sometimes you just gotta restart GoToWebinar.
And we will have a recording of this after the session. We'll have a link.
Yeah, it'll go up on SEOmoz.org/webinars.
Right. So, what is the big picture of conversion? Well, let's kick it off just by talking about some basics of CRM, right? So here's my blog, right? My moz.com/rand is my personal blog, and I really only have one call to action on my blog, right? I want more people to subscribe to my blog via email, and I've got that nice little button down there, get posts via email. You type in your email address, click the arrow, and boom, you're set up. You're starting to get posts through Feedburner's RSS system. Now, if sorry,
The stream isn't changing for everyone else.
oh, you guys aren't seeing it?
Here,
Go back and forth. Friday comes out. I'm filming it today, and I shaved my beard yesterday, so I'm going to be clean shaven for Friday. I think that's really good. I'm worried that the first 20 comments on the thing are going to be
There we go. Yes, no.
Look at that. That's oh, incredible. All right. Oh, and it changes too. All right. So back to the basics of conversion rate optimization. So this, now that you can finally see it, there we go, is my personal blog, right? It's at moz.com/rand. It's sort of this new project I've been undertaking to try and get back to blogging regularly, get back in the trenches a little bit. And I have this one call to action, getting posts via email. And I'm hoping that more people who visit the site will subscribe to my blog via email. And I have really two choices here. You can A, get more people visiting the site, or B, have a higher conversion rate of the people who already visit the site to those who sign up to get the post via email. In almost all the scenarios out there, B is the easier path, right? Getting more traffic to the site is certainly possible, but challenging. Getting a little bit more of a slightly higher percentage of those people to convert usually is the lower hanging fruit. So typically what a conversion rate optimizer is going to do, or someone who specializes in landing page optimization is going to do, is say, oh, well, you've got that call to action on getting posts via email. That must be the problem, right? It's this little graphic here. If we can improve that, we can get more people coming through. And so we'll do things like A/B testing, right, where we test, is the red background better or is the white background better? Apologies for my horrible photoshopping skills, right? We'll show half our visitors one, half the other, and then as we test through, we'll see that one of these two the winner. Or we do multivariate testing where we show a bunch of different versions, maybe without Roger at the top, or with Roger at the top, and with the red, and with the white background. So we'll show those 4 different versions, and then we'll get a winner, right? And we'll use these statistical significance testing principles, all the math behind this. Most of the basic tools out there, you know, an Unbounce or a visual website optimizer or a Google landing page system is going to automatically show us this stuff, and it'll tell us when we've got a statistically significant result, such that we can be confident that that one is actually the winner. And this process is pretty standard, right? In fact, we can apply this process to tons of different things. We could apply it to the location on the page, right? Maybe we should put the get posted email at the bottom or on the left sidebar. We could show that, have the display width be bigger, the box color be different, the address verification, use a different system so that when you type in your email address, maybe it's over-verifying and some people who are entering it aren't being captured because they entered their email wrong. We can use social proof inclusion, like the Facebook mashup box, right, that shows all of the people who you're friends with on Facebook who've signed up for this. We can make it load after the page loads first. Then the box comes in and it's like, oh, you should get post via email. After you scroll down to the bottom, you can change the call to action copy. Maybe it's better to say, get Rand's blog for free instead of get post button email. We could use different versions based on user behavior, meaning that if somebody comes to the site and they've been there 3 times, we could say, hey, you've been here 3 times. You seem to check out lots of posts. Why not subscribe to the email? We can change the messaging based on the different types of pages or posts. All this stuff is, I'm not recommending against it, but I would say you have to be very careful, because testing all of these things sometimes is not the right answer. It's all CRO. That's my best crocodile Dundee this morning. I'm sorry. Apologies to everyone in Australia. Right? What if this call to action isn't actually the problem? What if the reason that people aren't signing up has nothing to do with that box? It has to do with the content. Maybe the posts are crap. Maybe I'm not writing good stuff. Maybe I'm not writing stuff that people actually are interested in subscribing to, and so what's the point? Or even worse, what if I'm the problem? What if my brand, what if my writing style, what if the context around me or around the blog itself is just no good and has poisoned the well? Then nothing I do to that little red box is going to change that. Nothing. Conversion rate optimization in a full life cycle view, the big picture is about getting your customers from the discovery phase of, oh, look, I've seen this blog for the very first time, the content looks semi-interesting, all the way down to converting and taking that action. Now, in an e-commerce situation, this is obviously a sale, right? In a software business, this is someone buying or subscribing to the software package. In in an advertising-backed monetization scenario, it's maybe getting them to take some action, like an email newsletter or coming back to the site 5 times or more in a week, or whatever those actions are, signing up for a free account, etc. And really good CRO, great CRO, is about getting people all the way down the funnel so that, if you're e-commerce, they come back and they're multiple time buyers and they're evangelists for you. If they're software subscribers, they're coming back, they're staying with this subscription for months and months and months. This is what CRO is all about. And sometimes changing a button, changing a capture form, changing a landing page is not going to do the trick. But there are ways to do this. Right? The conversion decision is a big, complex process. I'll show you. Just a random sampling of all the things that goes into this, right? Everything from the design and the branding to the likability of the site to the trustworthiness to word of mouth, what you've heard from your friends, the user experience, the call to actions, the copywriting, the timing of when they discovered it and when you said what you said on the site, the discovery path of how they found it, the amount of pain and effort required to go through the process, the associations with the site, the historical experiences they've had, the pricing. All of this stuff goes into conversion decision, and it's very complex. The only true way to get at figuring out What the problem is here, right, is to use a process that actually looks at which things are wrong. And the way to do that is to segment your visitors and then talk to them. So I'll give you an example of how we've done this, right? We've essentially segmented a lot of our visitors and users of our website into groups like this. This isn't actually a breakdown of our stuff. This is from LinkedIn, but you can see a breakdown of industry survey results, for example, at that link there. And we'll separate people into folks who say, I'm an in-house marketer, I'm an agency marketer, I'm an independent consultant, I'm an individual website owner, I'm a manager of a web team who also happens to do some SEO. And then we'll survey them by asking them questions. So we segmented our list into these three groups: people who'd never taken a free trial, people who took the free trial of Moz but then left, people who took the free trial and stayed. And then we asked some questions like, for the never taken free trial group, what are you seeking from SEOmoz? What brought you back? What would make you more likely to sign up for the free trial? What are your biggest objections to sign up? People who took the free trial left, we asked them, what made you take the free trial in the first place? What objections did you have to taking it, and how'd you overcome those? What caused you to cancel the subscription? What would have made you stay a subscriber? And for people who took it and have stayed, customers for a long time, we asked, well, what initially made you want to use SEOmoz? And what objections do you have? How'd you overcome them? What's been most valuable to you? And by the way, if you've had success with Moz, can we share? And that gave us a lot of great case studies and stuff for our landing pages. This process is going to be different for every single business out there, right? Segmenting into your visitor groups, but the principle behind it is almost always the same. And this is how professionals do it. So we worked with the guys at Conversion Rate Experts, Ben Jessen and Dr. Carl Williamson. Fantastic guys, right? Do amazing work. And conversion rate optimization is not a cheap practice, right? Because they can really turn up the knob on things. But we worked with them, and the two things that they tried to figure out were, number one, gaining a deep understanding of what makes buyers buy. Oh. Okay, yeah, let's get the webinar going. Hang on just a sec, folks. We'll be right back. Let's see if this is back. Hey, what do you know? It's a miracle. All right, so like I said, we worked with the Conversion Rate Experts guys. Can you hear me? Looks like you. Okay, excellent. We worked with these Conversion Rate Experts guys, right, Carl and Ben, and the big process that they undertook was, number one, trying to gain a deep understanding of what makes buyers buy. That makes total sense, right? Boom, done. And number two, determining what makes some qualified visitors not buy. After that. I mean, this makes a ton of sense, right? So this segmentation process is all about figuring out, hey, those people who bought from us, those people who took the action we wanted them to take, why did they take that action? And who are the people who took it versus the ones who didn't? And then looking at, hey, these people who didn't buy from us, who didn't take that conversion action, sure do look a lot like the people who did. What's the difference between the ones who did it and the ones who didn't? And why did they say they didn't? That is what's going to give you a list of all those objections. And then what Carl and Ben did, it's very simple, right? They took all those objections and turned our original landing page into a page that addressed those objections. I don't know how many of you might remember old SEOmoz back in 2009, but in that year, the landing page kind of changed from that one pager to that very long scrolly thing that had a lot of answering of objections, right? That people would give us. And now it's sort of a modified version. It's got a kind of a scroll through system that kind of design looks very, very nice. But this worked tremendously well. You can see the results that CRE recorded for us, and we gave them some of our stats back there. The extra $1 million that it made us in 2009, that was the money that we were able to use to build Open Site Explorer. So really, just a huge turning point for our company in terms of what this conversion process allowed us to do. And the takeaway here is really, right? You need to do this. You've got to figure out what makes buyers buy, and why some qualified buyers are not buying. Then you'll know what to actually test, what to change, what's worthwhile and not. Otherwise, you're really just changing buttons.
I have one little technical thing. Due to the technical difficulties happening with this Mozinar, we're actually losing questions that you guys have asked in the Q&A through GoTo. I deeply apologize for that. If you do have a question for Rand, please get on Twitter and ask us. You can just use the Mozinar hashtag, and we're monitoring the Twitter stream, and we'll make sure that your questions get answered by Rand. And just a reminder, this webinar is recording, and it will be available. We hope it's recording. It's not, actually. I just looked at the screen. Never mind. Let's start it again. You can get part of it again. So part of it will be recorded and put online. Maybe we'll do this again, later in the spring. You can revisit.
Go to the webinar. You're a magic. All right. Well, thank you, Erica. My apologies. And yeah, of course, you can also send questions to through Twitter with them on. Yeah. So let's get into some tactical tips. I didn't want this to be all about big picture, but I do want to set the stage with that. One of the things that I worry deeply about is folks who, when they do CRO, just test this one element on a landing page. They think if they get the perfect title and button, that's going to sail them through. Not necessarily the case. Now that said, there are some things that lots of people have tested that work pretty darn well. So let's start diving into these. Number one, I cannot recommend this enough. And in fact, if you guys know John Coleman of REI, I've been mentioning his case study from REI, which he did a slideshow about, and it talks about the value not just to SEO but also conversion rate and to sales that they made at REI just by making their pages a tiny bit faster, literally 1.5 seconds. Which I always think to myself like, Erica, am I going to go to REI and be like, man, I really need some new snowboarding gloves, and I'm going to put them in my shopping cart, and then, oh man, you know what? A shopping cart page took 1.5 seconds extra time. I'm out of here. I don't need them. Forget it.
You're in a hurry.
Well, who is in that much of a hurry? They're buying online. Anyway, it doesn't matter who these people are. They exist. It's like they increase their conversion rate by something ridiculous, like 20%. So an extra 1 out of 5 buyers bought because their shopping cart page is loaded 1.5 seconds faster, which is insane, but we're all busy, I suppose. Those 1.5 seconds, that's important time. If you make those pages blazing fast, you will see conversion rate improvements, and you'll also see Google crawl rate improvements, pages indexed improvements, which means you can get more traffic, which obviously will help you get more total. Number 2, I highly recommend reading this blog post from Avinash Kaushik. He talks about essentially when people land on a page, they have what they think is their intent, right? What they think that they want to do and what they've been prefaced with. So that could be landing from a search results page. It could be something where they visited from a prior page on your website that made some sort of value proposition, and they expect something when they land on that page. If what the page actually does is different from what they expect, bounce rate is high, transaction rate is low, conversion rate is terrible. If that overlap is very strong, you're going to win this. This is one of my favorite Venn diagrams in all of the web marketing world. You can align customer intent and web page purpose, you're going to win. I don't even know that I need to say anything for this slide. It's pretty self-explanatory. If your website and your pages look like they were designed in the late 90s, look like they are non-professional, look like they're not very trustworthy, look like they're amateur, your conversion rate is necessarily going to go down, right? People have higher and higher expectations of what the web looks like today, and having an unpolished, unfinished, unprofessional design is, well, it's going to backfire on you. Number 4, I would highly recommend knowing some tools. So when I talk about segmenting visitors and surveying them, many of these tools are great ways to do that. Obviously, SurveyMonkey, Quicktail Calleroo, which used to be Kiss Insights, right? All of these pieces of software can assist with getting you more feedback on what's going wrong in your conversion process. And there's a link down there from CRE on understanding your visitors. I keep referencing those guys. They have lots of good resources on their site. And I would certainly recommend knowing all of these tools. You don't need to apply them all. That's not the case I'm trying to make. Right? What I'm not saying is go install every one of these tools, but know what they all do, and know which ones you need to apply to your specific situation. Number 5. So Ted Baker is one of my absolute favorite shops to buy from. Most of the time when he's going to be doing a Whiteboard Friday, much of the time he's going to be doing a Whiteboard Friday. I'm wearing a Ted Baker shirt. It's the Glaswegian shop from Glasgow in Scotland, and they do great stuff. Like they really do. But this is probably killing their conversion rate. See this page here? In order to buy something, you have to sign in and create an account. Now this is one of those scenarios where I kind of go back to that really 1.5 seconds. That's what's going to make you not buy. But there are lots of case studies, including the $300 million button story, $300 million button story, which I linked to down there from UIE, that talks about how major retailers, by removing the requirement to register and letting people check out as a guest, essentially anonymously, not anonymously because you're entering your credit card, but not having to create an account, made them $300 million extra through improving conversion rate almost 20%. And that's exactly what TED is essentially killing here. So if you have a forced registration step and you don't allow people to go through as a guest, as an unregistered member, I would highly recommend testing that. That's almost always going to produce an increase. Number 6, when you're doing messaging, concrete and emotional almost always beats abstract and intellectual. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're Facebook and you're trying to sell the value proposition of Facebook. Concrete and so abstract and intellectual, right? The bad one that don't do this. Abstract and intellectual is Facebook is building the world's largest social networking platform. Come join us. Okay, sounds moderately compelling, but concrete and emotional would be log into Facebook and see all of your friends and family's photos. Oh, well, I definitely have to see all of my friends and family photos, right? And all my friends and family are uploading photos to Facebook. I have to be there. Now I have to be there. That concreteness and the emotional resonance of photography, of the connection I have to my friends and family, that's going to work almost all the time much, much better than the abstract and intellectual. I want you to think about the taglines that you have for your business, the headlines that you've got for your web pages, for your landing pages especially, and think about whether you're appealing to something that is concrete and emotional or abstract and intellectual. And you can see there's actually a great infographic about this from the guys in Sydney. Not surprisingly, perhaps, the word free works really well. This is another one, it's kind of a head scratcher, right? Because I go, well, obviously, try Firefox it's going to be free, right? Firefox has always been free. Who is it that, who is this extra, 0.3% of their traffic that sees try Firefox 3 and thinks, well, I shouldn't try it because it doesn't actually say free on the button. And instead, when the button says download now free, or in the case of Social's conversion rate, right, increased by 4.5% just by saying it's free. Well, there you go. If you have something that's free, maybe you should test it. Maybe I should be testing on that moz.com/ran blog. I should be testing get posts in email for free instead of sign up to get posts in email. Number 8. The more detail you provide about the product, about the service that you've got, the higher conversion rate tends to go. And this doesn't mean overwhelm people, but this does mean, think about what Zappos does. They essentially have someone who rephotographs, even though they get photographs from the manufacturers, they rephotograph every single shoe they get. They take a little video where like a guy comes out and talks about how he likes wearing the shoes or doesn't in some cases. And it's fascinating. You can see it in every single color. You can see it from every angle. You know exactly what you're getting before you get it. And because of this, Zappos' conversion rate has gone through the roof. You can actually read about, I've got a link to another Zappos article about their conversion rate, post them adding video and all that kind of stuff in a little bit. If you've got products or services and you can describe them in more detail, you can provide more detail about them, that is going to send conversion rate up because people don't have to go somewhere else to research the questions they have. Number 9. video is very powerful, right? So Dropbox had a 10% lift when they added the Common Craft video to their homepage and showed this off. Especially if you're doing web-based products, having a short video that someone can watch easily and get a sense for what it does is incredibly powerful. And there's lots of other examples of this. But one thing I would say about video is that you've got to optimize it. You have to make those videos good. So take a look at the left and right that I'm showing here. This is stats from Wistia. And on the left-hand side, so we use Wistia for Whiteboard Friday. On the left-hand side is the Learn SEO video, which I recorded a while ago, and sort of talks through the basics of SEO. And on the right-hand side is one of Cyrus Shepard's Whiteboard Fridays that he did, which, by the way, was a phenomenal Whiteboard Friday. Do you see the difference in engagement rate? You see the blue and the red? So red is parts that people rewatched, and blue is essentially how many people stayed with the video to that point, right? So you can see at the 6-minute mark for Cyrus's video, 75% of the audience is still watching that video. At the 6-minute mark for the video I did, it's under that, right? It's significantly under that. And in fact, you can see the drop-off, right? The drop-off at the beginning is dramatically, I'm sorry, the scaling there is wrong, right? So 100% should be at the top. But, and there's a bunch of links that I put down at the bottom here, right? On video for conversion from Conversion Excel, from Internet Retailer, and from Treepodia. This will talk about exactly what the problem is with a lot of video, because a lot of video loses people in the first couple of minutes, as you can see there. And you've got to make those videos good, or they're not going to help with conversion. All right. Number 10. Please don't fall into the trap of just copying everyone else's results. Meaning that, hey, I'm just looking at, how Basecamp did their product. Oh, you guys lose me?
Here.
Sec? Yeah. We lost her. Okay, hang on just a sec. I'll be right back. Yes, you can see me again. Okay. It's only every like 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just going to give 14.5-minute Moz and Arts from now. So, number 10, don't fall into this trap of where you're copying other people's results, right? So check out Basecamp. They reduced the complexity of their page with this new design, and so you think to yourself, oh, okay, got it. More white background, less dark callouts, that kind of stuff. That will increase my conversion rate. Well, hang on a sec, because here's Aquasoft, and they went essentially from that white background, less detail, to the dark background, more callouts, more of a complex page design, and they went up 20%. Don't assume when you see a case study about conversion rate optimization that you know what it is that the change, which change made for a higher conversion rate or a lower conversion rate. That is a big mistake, right? So somebody says, oh, red buttons always work better on the internet? No, I'd be very suspicious. Or, oh, you know what, having a very, very strong, or missing the top nav, getting rid of the top nav, that helps people through conversion. Sometimes, not always. Be really careful about this stuff. A lot of people say, oh, let's just take our examples from the best practices of the key players, like an Amazon or a Google or whatever it is. Not necessarily. The things that work for them may not work for you. And this is why testing is so important. Don't just assume that you know what's going on. And my final number 11, if you like tips like this, like the 10 I've given you here, there's a ton of them that Ollie Gardner from Unbounce put together, literally hundreds, 616 and counting different tips on CRO, tons of different case studies. Highly recommend this stuff. It can be fun to go through these. Again, just make sure you're not taking away the wrong lessons from it. These will give you great, great creative ideas on what you should be testing, though, and that kind of testing. All right, gang. Let's do some Q&A.
Alrighty. Woohoo! We've definitely got some questions from Twitter. So if you guys do have questions, just use the Mozinar hashtag on Twitter, and our staff is there gathering up your questions, so Rand will get them. So our first question today comes from Greg Anderson. He asks, How many visitors per day do you need to perform CRO that is statistically accurate?
The interesting thing about this is, Greg, that it actually totally depends on what your conversion rate is. If you have a high conversion rate, let's say 10% of the people who came to a web page filled out a form that you wanted them to fill out. You actually don't need very many. You know, with a couple hundred visits a day, you can make statistically significant tests in just a few days. If you only have a conversion rate of 1%, that time period is going to be extended. A test to get statistical significance is going to take a much longer time. And then the other thing about this is, if one version is way, way better than another version in terms of converting, so let's say you have one test that's running, test version A is converting at, 3 times the percentage of test version B, even if that's 0.1% and 0.3%, you don't need very many visitors to figure that out pretty darn quickly. But if it's only slightly better, very, very slightly better, then it's going to take a longer time and more time.
Oh, sorry. Musical chairs in here. This one comes from Massimo CW. How do you understand when you need external help for CRO to improve further?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually I have a cousin named Massimo. I have two, the dad and the son. Yeah, Massimo, so basically, this is like any other practice. When you find yourself hitting a wall, you might want to recruit some outside expertise, and or when you find yourself in a position where your time is better spent on other things, and you know that you could get a tremendous amount of ROI from using an external vendor, then I'd recommend it. And one big tip that I'd have for choosing an external vendor is make sure, before you select someone, right, whether it's the conversion rate experts guys or Stephen Pavlovich or any of the good folks in this field, and there are lots of them, when you choose someone, it's really, really important to make sure that you've got a team on hand, like someone on your staff who can make the changes. One of the biggest problems that we had is we hired some conversion rate optimizer help at one point, but we just didn't have the web development staff or time to be able to invest in the projects that they told us would be valuable, and that got really frustrating for them and for us. So definitely make sure that you've got, oh, hey, look, I've got a guy who's got 20 hours a week to do web dev, to do, to make design changes, to write some copy for us, to do the kinds of changes that they're going to recommend. If you need someone to be completely full service, that probably means that you need to hire two kinds of folks. You need a conversion rate optimization firm, and you also need some web design development.
Awesome. Beloso Fernando says, Fran, greetings from Portugal. Ooh. Any tips for low-cost CRO?
So low cost, I mean, you can do a ton of this yourself. One of the best ways I've got is if you have an email list. Sorry, his name was Fernando. Beloso. Okay. So if you've got an email list, right? You can literally just from your personal email send out, say, a sample to 10% of the people who email subscribe to you and say, hey, we would love your help in filling out a survey, and maybe you can win something, or we'll give you a month free or something with if you fill out the survey, and have that survey ask those questions, right? Those key questions that I talked about in terms of what made you buy, why didn't you buy if you didn't, those kinds of things, and then apply those to your landing pages and just run an A/B test with a different version. That's essentially completely free. It just takes your time and energy. So there's lots of ways you can do this on your own without spending much money. Totally. Oh, I accept that.
That's okay. So the next question comes from MD Myers, 5150. What's the best way to contact the people you want to survey from your website if you don't have contact info?
Yeah, so some of the tools you can use, that Qualaroo tool, you can use Google Talk if you want to have live chat set up on your website. You can even set up just a SurveyMonkey link from the page. Basically, anywhere where you have activity happening, where visitors are coming in, you can sort of pop something up or have a link to take people from there. I'm sure you've visited sites on the web that say, hey, would you be willing to take a short 2-minute survey or those kinds of things. That's a great way to go. If you can have some value proposition behind that, like take our survey and get a copy of our latest email newsletter free, or take the survey and get a one-time report for free. Those kinds of things are very, very handy too. You just need to find wherever you've got traffic and wherever you can provide some value back to people, and then you can ask for that survey.
Our next question comes from Tony Green 113. What would you call a good Google Insights score for page speed? Will testing only the landing page speed help me narrow results?
Yeah, so in terms of page load speed, there's no specific score that's good. What you should be working on, rather than trying to hit some artificial number, is really, well, okay, so less than 7 seconds on a fast computer, right? That is a really good one. But under that, some people benefit from going from 5 seconds to 4.5 seconds. Some people benefit from going from 3 seconds to 2.5 seconds. Some people don't benefit even when they drop 2 or 3 seconds from 6.5. So what I would instead work on is bringing that number down, right? You want to see a trend line that goes down, so you can use, there's lots of tools. Google actually has a great one inside Webmaster Tools for page speed, Google page speed, and that can show you kind of, what are all the packets that are being downloaded, what's causing, a backlog in making that page load quickly. And then the other thing you might consider too is something around responsive design. So you could segment your users. One of the things that I really recommend doing is segment by device. So you see, oh, well, people who are using a mobile, they're naturally getting things slower, so that's dragging down your average if you're just looking at that overall. And that's why some of these tools can be helpful, including page speed. Yeah, so I wouldn't target like some really specific number, but I would instead go after down. Bring it down, see what happens.
This question is from Christy. She says, my question is how important is A/B testing in CRO? And when multivariate is not available in Google, how can we overcome this?
I'm actually, and I've talked to a number of folks who do CRO kind of professionally full-time, and many of us are not fans of multivariate testing unless you have an absolutely huge website getting tons and tons of traffic, and you're testing the very, very small pieces, right? So if you're Amazon.com and you want to test like 4 or 5 different button text layouts or something, okay, fine, multivariate might work fine for you, get enough traffic that you'll make that statistically significant test in just a matter of a day or two. But remember, multivariate tests are going to naturally extend the time period and require more and more traffic. So I almost like doing multiple A/B tests rather than doing tons of multivariate. And multivariate can also get kind of messy too, because it's hard to know, sometimes it's hard to know whether some version that you didn't test that's a mashup of the different ones that you did test would work a little better. So I would encourage you to kind of go work on the big things first and work on A/B first, and only if you have a huge site would I be considering the multivariate.
Our next question is from Lion Web Design. What was the most effective method of asking the smart questions to the right people? Email, web form, dialog box, etc.
You know what? Actually, the most effective was getting on the phone. So I'm serious here. Basically, we reached out to a lot of people, and Carl and Ben, this is back in 2009. Now, today we have a customer advisory board, and Jackie talks to a lot of people in person, and we have Joanna's team, and Renee talks to people over email. Our help team talks to them in person every day. I think we're doing, we talk to 400 or so folks a week. So today, it's a much more in-depth process. But in 2009, we didn't have a help team, we didn't have a customer advisory board, anything like that. And Carl and Ben literally got on the phone with about 10% of the people that were surveyed, so not quite 100 folks at the time, and walked through and asked them all these questions and kind of had an in-person dialogue. And the amount of color and clarity and depth that you get from in-person is really fascinating, especially when you can contrast it against the survey results. So the other way that we did this was we did send out an email with a survey link to our members, and we got a decent uptick in that, and so we had, I think, about 1,000 total surveys completed at the time, and we had, and maybe 300 or 400 of those were paying customers, and a couple hundred were people who'd quit, and a few hundred were people who'd never taken the trial. And then they talked on the phone to 20, 30 of each, which was really, really effective.
All right, our next question comes from Ricardo. He says, how would you identify possible areas of friction on an e-commerce site using faceted navigation?
Possible areas of friction. You can do this in one of two ways. One of the best ways is probably in-person usability testing. So you get a usability lab. It's kind of pricey. I mean, I haven't seen many usability labs that are less than at least a few $1,000s to use for a half a day or something. You bring in some users and you ask them, the typical usability process. If you're interested in that, Steve Krug's book, Krug, he did a couple books, and his second one was specifically around how to do usability tests. But basically, you have people come in person, and they, sit in front of a computer, they have a task, there's a video on them, and then you watch as they try and perform those tasks. Another way that you can do it that's a little more statistically based is just it's more quantitative rather than qualitative, but you can look at click paths inside analytics and see, hey, gosh, when people hit this page type or this specific page, they're really not making it any further in the process. And this is very different from people who don't encounter these pages. And that can show you where the bottlenecks might be at.
Okay, our next question is, how do you prioritize what to test first and justify it to the hierarchy?
This is where survey results and those phone calls can be so incredibly powerful, right? So if you show a manager, an executive on your team, essentially your conversion rate today, what your conversion rate, if it went up by 0.5%, would do over the next 6 months, which is usually literally thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And then you show that qualitative feedback where 10 people in a survey, in an email, have said X, Y, Z, right? Like this is the problem, this is what we're frustrated by, this is why we didn't buy from you. It's if you say, look, if we could get over this objection by including, this detail, by changing this page, by adding a video, by whatever it is that you're recommending that you think you can take away from that, that person is going to have a really hard time saying, no, I don't really want those extra millions of dollars next year. Don't test this out. That's a tough case to make. So I would definitely suggest having that data to back yourself up. Yeah. So actually, the tool inside that used to be Google Website Optimizer, that's now kind of part of AdWords, part of analytics. That's still a pretty solid one. But my personal favorite is Unbounce. The thing I love about Unbounce is that you don't need any developers or web dev help to be able to do this. You can just install Unbounce and then start testing landing pages. And once you get a winning version on the subdomain wherever you set up Unbounce, then easy as pie, you can swap that out with the actual version on your root domain or the subdomain where you've got your main site. Visual Website Optimizer is also very highly regarded. I would check that out. I think that's quite a good tool. There's a few others. That link that I had on the slide. Oh, I can't actually scroll. Never mind. But yeah, on one of the slides that links to all the tools, I think it was like tip number 4 or 5 or something. I would check out that list of tools as well.
Okay, I'm a little worried since it won't come up on the computer. That is going to actually shut down. But the next question is from Skin Lab Dan. For small business, is it safe to gut check your CRO and interview customers more than run tests?
So, say, don't run the tests until or unless you have some statistical data, right? So if you're looking through your click paths and you're seeing, man, people are usually dropping out, they're abandoning these pages once they get to X, Y, or Z section, yeah, then maybe you know that you need to make some changes there even before you start to have those interviews and talk to people and send surveys and that kind of thing. If you're not seeing that, if you don't have that like statistical roadblock in your click paths, and it's more of a, we're doing okay, but I'm pretty sure we can do better, and we have traffic, but we're just not converting as much as I think we should. Yeah, then I'd probably be going that interview and data gathering route before you start testing things. It'll just give you a lot of insight.
Okay, our next question says, any advice to persuade someone who is reluctant to testing and optimization? So many cases, not only just hippos.
Yeah.
You want to explain hippos first?
Sure. So HIPPO is an acronym referring to the highest paid person in the office, or in the room, the specific room. And this often, sadly, is the person who's making decisions, which can be very frustrating. Data is a great way around this, and qualitative is a great way around it too. So qualitative meaning, here's a video of someone trying to use this. Here's an email we got from a customer about this problem. Here's 10 responses to a survey question, an open-ended survey question with people calling out this problem. But I've actually seen a lot of the time one of the most compelling arguments be a competitive one, meaning that someone says, hey, our competition is making us look bad here. Here's some case study about them. Here's their conversion rate. Here's their success. Here's what they're doing on their pages. We should test this because they're kicking our butts. And a lot of the time, even when other argument, the competition's making us look bad argument, works really nicely. I don't know what it is about high-paid execs, but